Strength comes greater challenges and responsibilities. Bestone believes in giving back the best to their clients, nature and society, ensures the quality product with stringent quality checks by the professionals with peerless experience of 20 years. We work from large industrial projects to simple residential ones, bringing in diversity in work. Bestone earned the Golden Petal Award for their remarkable work in the interior and exterior spaces, making them a leader in quality imported marble industry. Our wide range and spectacular designs pose a great balance between the art and science and bring your imagination to life. So, come to us and bring home the magnificence of marbles. The best stone at your doorstep.
हौसला है पाने का सही कदम बढ़ाने का मिला है हमको साथ खुशियाँ अपने पास निडरता से जीने का सपने बस में करने का आशिया को पाने का मिला है हमको साथ खुशियाँ अपने पास
LIC हाउसिंग फाइनेंस, घर बसाए रिश्ते सजाए।
I'd now like to invite Ms. Sapna Srivastava, the editor of Realty Plus, to please come on stage and deliver the welcome note. Let's have a round of applause and please help me welcome Ms. Sapna Srivastava.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 8th Realty Plus Conclave and Excellence Awards 2016 West. It's great to see so many enthusiastic men and women here being part of the conclave today, and I assure you it's going to be a very exciting affair. We have two panel discussions. One of the discussion is on a very hot topic of these days, the real estate regulatory bill. And the second discussion is on a very interesting design and facility management oriented topic of workspace management. So we look forward to very knowledge enhancing sessions. In fact, many of you have traveled from other cities to be here. So I would like to acknowledge some of our eminent guests who have come from Delhi, Pune, Bangalore, and as far as United Arab Emirates. Thank you, everyone. Moving on, among the activities of the day, we have a book release of one of the internationally acclaimed architect, followed by the address by former Miss India on whys and hows of image building, especially for the real estate developers. Then we have a very interesting presentation on redevelopment of more than 100-year-old settlement in Mumbai by none other than the architect of the project himself. So this is just the gist of what we have planned for the day. Now, without taking any more time, I would like to invite Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Realty Plus, Exchange for Media Group and Business World, to please come on the stage and address the audience. Thank you, everyone. Welcome and enjoy the conclave.
Sapna has already done the job of welcoming all of you to the 8th Realty Plus Conclave West and Realty Plus Excellence Awards. She's welcomed the speakers and the delegates from outside Mumbai. But I'd like to especially welcome our chief guest, Shri Shekhar Dutt ji, who's the former governor of Chhattisgarh. He's been a deputy national security advisor and the defense secretary for the government of India. He's a very celebrated and acclaimed public servant and very active. So we are honored, sir, that you come all the way from Delhi to be with us. As Sapna alluded to, that we have a book launch of a very special person who is more Indian than a lot of Indians in more ways than one. So we're looking forward to your book's launch, Mr. Charles Benninger, Christopher Charles Benninger. And that book was launched a couple of weeks back in Ahmedabad, and we are looking forward to the launch. Mr. Benninger came to India in 1968. I wasn't born, for the record, then. And I'm not forged my birth certificate, never needed to. In fact, I was always happy I looked older. The real estate guys took me seriously. So you know, I wasn't born then. We also have Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani. He's the pioneer of the real estate sector. He's developed cities, communities, habitations, and iconic landmarks. I won't call them just buildings, but really a city. The Powai area of Mumbai has been developed by him, and the quality that he's developed, the quality that he's provided to the residents. We're honored to have you. And I remember when we started Realty Plus 12 years back on 27th August 2004. Since then, Mr. Nandani has been kind enough to be at our forums and patronize us. So we're really honored and grateful to you. In our journey, you played a pivotal role. So acknowledge your presence. There are many preeminent people I've met, architects, developers, guests from the United Arab Emirates. I'm not an expert on real estate. All of you are, but I started my career in real estate after the business school, as I've narrated the story many times. There was a 3 months lag between the time I joined a job. I was joining a IT services company, and I happened to meet a young Australian gentleman called David Fowler, who with Michael Thompson was setting up Collier's Jardine. And I was young and impressionable then. I'm both now also, but I was a little more young. So he bought me a few beers, and I came back home and I told my dad, who studied at BITS Pilani and chose to be a professor, became a principal of a college, and very contented, very healthy. And I told him that I'm not going to join this IT services company. I'm going to join Collier's Jardine. So my dad asked me, what is Collier's Jardine? So I tried to explain to him that it does consultancy, it does research, it does broking. So my dad got onto the broking part, and he said, "Agar dalali karni thi, itna padhne likhne ki kya zarurat thi?" But I disregarded my dad's advice and I joined Collier's Jardine. I was telling, I'm a loud Punjabi from Delhi, so I make it a point to tell Sanjay that his boss Sanjay Verma was recruited in his first job by me, which is a fact. He's my junior from the business school. So really, I know a little bit about the real estate industry. And then I moved on. In fact, when I got married almost 16 years back, my mother-in-law always told me that, I made the biggest mistake. It was not about marrying her daughter, that's another thing. But she said, I shouldn't leave real estate. That's where the wealth creation happens. And for about and I just started Exchange for Media. And she kept telling me, and my wife, and kept telling me that I should go back to the real estate industry. And so in my way of going back was starting a real estate magazine. And since then, I have been part of the real estate industry in that sense. We're talking in the background when real estate still is a lucrative investment option. Yes, it is. In the last 2 years, real estate is not at the same levels in terms of pricing and in terms of offtake than it used to be. There is RERA that has been introduced. Commercial property still is very robust. I know Mr. Hiranandani will be very diplomatic about what he says, but I don't think the government is very friendly to the real estate developers. I think the real estate industry creates job of a scale that no other industry does, if you include the construction and the allied industries. Real estate industry is also in some way keeps the circulation of money going, and that is important for a country like India. Real estate industry is also in some way under threat from technology. And that's the only thing I want to say, and want to go away, sit down and get into the formal part. I was having lunch with a friend of mine. He's my schoolmate. He was in class 10th with me till class 10th, and then he went to a different school. He runs a venture capital firm, and he's in the last 4 odd years invested $250 million in IT and IPCS services. And we were talking, I said, I believe, I grew up in old Gurgaon. I believe Gurgaon is built by 2 institutions. One's called DLF, the other's called GE, because GE started setting up its IT and ITS. In fact, he was the youngest board member of GE, my friend. And we were talking, he invested in a KPO BPO, which had 360 people in New York. He's just replaced those 360 people with 40 people in technology. 40 people from 360 and technology. Now, the city of Gurgaon, and more than the city of Gurgaon, the city of Pune, sir, is totally dependent on IT and ITS. In the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, I don't know the time frame, I'm neither a futurist nor an astrologer, but technology will take away jobs. When technology takes away jobs, cities like Pune, which are totally dependent on the young people that work in these IT and ITS services and rent houses, invest in houses, and the ecosystem of economy, which is a multiplier effect, will get hugely impacted. So these may become ghost towns. That's like really very pessimistic view, but definitely the real estate demand will get even more impacted because technology means lesser and lesser jobs. If you look at the production numbers in the US, they have gone up by 80, 90%. Jobs have only gone up by 12% because they are getting mechanized. And in India, when people are setting up ventures, as in production setups, they're using the latest technology. So really, they're at par with global standards. So if that happens, the huge residential stocks that every developer built in the last 5 years continues to be hopeful that at some stage aliens will come and live there, may not happen. And that may have its own multiplier effect. So that's the only thing I want to put. The technology has started to impact real estate industry in a manner that we've never thought. And it is something that I think about and I worry about. And I will not go into detail, but I have a friend who's the editor of a news channel, a young man, very honest man, so very meager. He gets his salary and that's what he survives, unlike a lot of editors and journalists. I'm a brave man. I got married 16 years back, so, I'm not worried. Once you go through that baptism, you're not worried. So he wrote an article, and I'll give you his name. He's now with Z. He works for your friend Subhaji and my friend Subhaji. In fact, I recommend him. His name is Mehraj Dubey, and you can go and read his LinkedIn article. So it's not something that I'm making up. He wrote about he bought 2 houses, right, in the heydays, and how he's feeling. Then he went to ISB to study. And he wrote a piece about not being able to pay his EMIs. He's been able to, but he has similar friends, and he wrote about the fact that is a housing collapse of the kind that happened in the US in 2008, where, the subprime crisis happened and, the mortgages were bundled and sold and resold, and the buyers couldn't pay. He said that something like that, of not that scale, but something like that on a smaller or a mid-sized scale could happen in India, because if combined with the scenario of people going out of jobs and hikes not happening, they're not able to pay their EMIs. And I'm painting a bleak scenario, but it's not an unrealistic and I'm not a pessimist person. I'm very optimist. My friend, Mr. Sudhir Mishra, who's India's top environment and healthcare lawyer, is there. And, I'm absolutely optimistic. I still believe I'll be able to grow here. Baba Ramdev, thanks to him. But so I want today to be a day when stalwarts like Mr. Hiranandani and wise statesmen like Mr. Dutt are able to dwell on the social aspects of this real estate boom, and if this boom will sustain. There may be a temporary lull last 2 years, but still relevant to other countries. We're still booming. So I hope today we look at these social dimensions of what's happening in the real estate sector and not just commercial dimensions. And I hope we'll look at how together as a community we are able to create sampada, which what I call shared wealth, and not just sampati, which is selfish wealth. So with that, I welcome you to the 8th edition of Realty Plus Awards and Conference. I also have a dual hat. I no longer have an executive role in Exchange for Media. I come for the love of my colleagues and to meet my friends. But I also acquired Business World 3 years back. And the latest issue, I was telling Mr. Dutt, because he was a former defense secretary, the government of India is on the business of war. And when I first told my editors to consider that as a cover, and they said, no, but that's strategic affairs. I said, I'm not talking to you about war. I'm talking to you about the business of war. I said, if the business of war is not a business, over the next 10 years, India will buy between 200 billion to 300 billion of defense technology, because we haven't upgraded for a while. So we'll need to upgrade. We've already placed orders of 20 billion. If that's not a business, then I don't know what is a business. So I would encourage you to read the latest Business World. It has happened at the time when India's bought Rafales. There is a talk of war. There is warmongering. There is a lot of chest thumping happening. So really, I encourage you to read the latest issue of Business World and see, if we've been able to sum up what's happening in the environment, with this, I go back to my seat and look forward to interacting with you. Thank you once again.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Batra. I must admit that's a heady start to the conclave indeed. Thank you very much for sharing your experiences as well. On that note, let's march ahead, and I must admit it's my delight to introduce our chief guest for the conclave. Ladies and gentlemen, an army officer in the year 1967, my apologies. He became the Defense Secretary, Government of India in the year 2005, and from 2007 onwards, he has served as the Deputy National Security Advisor till 2010, looking after the issues concerning strategic defense and national security. From 2010 to 2014, he was appointed as the Governor of State of Chhattisgarh. While in the Indian Army, he's also participated in the 1971 Indo-Pak War in the Western Sector and was awarded the Sena Medal for gallantry. And during his tenure as the Defense Secretary, a number of initiatives were taken towards increasing the pace of modernization as well as a new framework for the US-India defense relationship, which was then finalized. Now, this paved the way for increasing the all-round cooperation between India and the USA in defense and strategic matters. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together to welcome on stage our honorable chief guest for the conclave, Mr. Shekhar Dutt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I was just telling Mr. Batra that I was really inspired by his talk, because it is a fact that persons like him make the foundation of something which is which has to be new, and I think and that new has to have the ability to last. And what he is doing has certainly got all the right things which will make his creation last. And therefore, it's a very encouraging experience for especially the younger people who could learn lessons from pioneers. Our ancestors have, at this time also I must recognize the presence of Mr. Christopher Benninger, Mr. Premnath, Mr. Hiranandani, Sandeep Goswami, and Sunil Mishra, and others who are certainly models for the younger generations to be inspired. So our ancestors have said, and this I always think is an extremely good